So he says, there's a copy of the appraisal on the internet. Oh, so what? Well, that's a violation of confidentiality. No, it isn't. Well, why not?
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you once again. We are sponsored today by Alamode Software. Of course, Alamode is the software that I've been using for over 20 years. They've been in business for 3 decades plus, folks. They are there to help appraisers to be more efficient. Check them out. Go to alamode.com, or you can call them at 800-ALAMODE. We, of course, are also sponsored by DataMaster. DataMaster rolling out DataMaster 6 across the country. But whether they have 6 in your area or numero uno, you need to check them out by going to datamasterusa.com. It will save you 30 to 60 minutes per report. If that sounds interesting to you, go to datamasterusa.com. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP is the E&O that I have been using for the last several years. I've been very happy with the way that they've saved me money and given me more benefits all in one. Check them out. Go to orep.org. That's spelled OREP.org. Well, folks, on a pretty regular basis here, about once a month, have a good friend of mine on who is a very smart feller. His name is Mr. Tim Andersen. Tim, are you there, my friend?
Yes, I'm sitting here growling into the microphone, getting my voice ready.
I heard that. It was a beautiful growl.
I didn't know you were going to.
That's okay.
Quickly.
That's all right. That's okay. We know that you're all set and ready to go now. Tim, of course, is an MAI. He is a USPAP instructor out of Florida. A good friend of mine, a very smart feller, and he's here to talk about some questions that we have come in on a regular basis. Tim, we call this Dear USPAP Instructor, and basically I turn to you because I don't know squat. I know how to help people to become better business owners, but when it comes to USPAP items, I defer to people that are more smart than I. So, Tim, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it. And my best to your family and the listeners.
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. It's always good to have you on, my friend. You know, on a pretty regular basis, we get these questions that come in that, frankly, I can't answer very well. I'm not a USPAP instructor. I am an appraiser for over 20 years, and I help appraisers to become more successful business owners. But when it comes to USPAP items, I defer to smart people like yourself. So I appreciate you being on, my friend. This is a pretty popular episode, a pretty popular series that we've been doing called Dear USPAP Instructor. So welcome back.
Well, thank you, Dustin. And let's go ahead and jump into another pile of confusion.
I love it, my friend. So, you know, here's the thing, Tim. I'm going to set this one up. This is going to be a little bit different than normally what we do. Normally, as the listeners know, we typically will take questions from the audience. These are specific questions that have been asked regarding specific issues, and you answer them. This is similar. I've had several, in fact, I would say a plethora of questions come my direction via Facebook, via email, via other sources that people have made a lot of comments. There's a lot of hubbub right now, Tim, as you know, about confidentiality. And what I would like to do is kind of use a buzzword in our profession, aggregate those questions today, and talk about some confidentiality issues. Sound okay?
Okay, aggregate. That's an apartment complex in Washington, D.C., isn't it?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, like I said, it's a buzzword in our
that shows
profession.
You how old I am.
That's right.
Dustin?
It does. I'm not going to go there, man.
Thank you. Bless your heart.
You're as old as my papa, and not quite as smart. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, my friend. Let's talk about data for just a second, because this has been a hot topic in the the media. When I say media, I mean social media as of late. And a lot of questions regarding, and frankly, I'll be honest with you, Tim, I think a lot of confusion out there, specifically when it comes to USPAP, specifically when it comes to what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is confidential, what is not confidential. So let's just start with that. What is confidential data? Who owns the data in an appraisal report?
Well, let's go back to the concept of confidential data. USPAP's confidentiality statements are found in the ethics rule. And basically, it says that something is confidential if the client says it's confidential and it's not available from any other source. So if the data meet those two criteria, then it is confidential, period, end of sentence.
Okay, give those two one more time. One more time. There's two criteria.
There are two criteria. Number one, the client says it's confidential. And number two, and it's not available from any other source.
Okay, this is really important because you used the word and I think you did it on purpose.
Yeah, because that's basically what USPAP says, and I don't have a copy of it open in front of me.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, just ask my wife, but I think that's what it says.
Okay, so it's not or, because I think this is some of the confusion. In other words, it's in order to be determined confidential data regarding USPAP, it's got to be something that the client, not the appraiser, the client deems confidential, and what's the second thing?
And it must not be available from any other source. Can I tell a little story here?
Please.
A number of years ago, I did an appraisal for Monroe County, which is the Florida Keys. And Monroe County wanted to buy a school from the city of Key West. And the city of Key West wanted to sell it. Well, two government entities, of course, you have to have appraisals. And the Monroe County wanted to buy the property because it was one of the largest contiguous pieces of property in the city of Key West, which doesn't have a lot of large properties. And then the county was going to tear part of the school down and put in parking and then revamp the improvements there and then use it for county offices. Okay, so we went down there, we inspected it in a pouring rainstorm, and we went back and we did our thing and we came up with a number and we sent it off to Monroe County, and lo and behold, we even got paid. Anyway,
this is good.
A couple of months later, I'm diddling around on the internet, and there's a copy of my appraisal. Now,
wow, on the internet.
On the internet.
Wow.
And in fact, I think if you go to the city of Key West, Florida's website, you can find it. So, the other appraiser who helped me on this calls me up and says, "Well, we're in trouble." Oh, okay, what's wrong? I'm married. I'm always in trouble. So he says, "There's a copy of the appraisal on the internet." Oh, so what? Well, that's a violation of confidentiality. No, it isn't. Well, why not? Because we didn't put it there. The client put it there. And once the appraisal leaves our fingers, there is absolutely nothing we can do to control where it goes. USPAP basically says, appraisers, you will maintain confidentiality, but once it gets out of your hands, you got no control over it.
Interesting. Okay. I think we're going to circle back to this about how much control and what an appraiser should do. But let's talk about clients for just a second, because one of the concerns out there is that a client, an agent, an AMC, or the portal itself is quote unquote harvesting data in an appraisal report. What do you think about that?
Well, okay, this is extremely controversial, and the problem is nobody knows the answer to the question. The USPAP itself, and I forget which frequently asked question mentions it. I may have sent that data to you. I don't remember. But there is a frequently asked question, and it says basically who owns an appraisal. Let me
read it to you. You did. It's 269, and according to the document that you sent me, I don't have the actual FAQ in front of me, but I think this is just copied and pasted. It says, quote, USPAP does not specifically address who owns the appraisal report, the research necessary to produce that report, and the report supporting documentation.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, USPAP at this point has chosen not to offer us any guidance. Therefore, we can't look to USPAP to answer the question.
Okay.
Therefore, neither can state boards. Now, as far as I'm concerned, appraisers don't own their data. And that's because it's either taken from the MLS, which is a private service to which the appraiser subscribed, or it comes from public record. So as a result, the appraisers don't own either of those sources of data.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you because I know you're trying to make a bigger point, but I think you hit on something that is so crucial that I think we have to punctuate, because there's a lot of comments out there in the social media right now regarding quote unquote my data. Appraisers are talking about my data, stealing my data. But the comment you just made is it's not necessarily their data, right?
Well, I think what appraisers are referring to is not necessarily the fact that you went to official record book 47, page 3, and pulled a copy of the deed. I think what appraisers are referring to, they're really not referring to their data. They're referring to their analyses of the data. Mm-hmm. Now, their analyses of the data is intellectual property. And of course, that belongs to the appraiser. Without question, nobody debates that.
Okay.
But then in the appraisal report itself, there is no intellectual property. There is merely a written summary of what your intellectual forces, what your intellectual efforts yielded. In fact, if you go back to the definition of an appraisal, it says an appraisal is the process through which an appraiser goes to arrive at a credible value opinion. So there is a process. There is an intellectual process by which the appraiser forms a value conclusion. So that is the appraisers. It's not necessarily confidential, but that belongs to the appraiser. But once the appraiser puts a summary of that analysis or those analyses on the report, then the appraiser agreed with the client upon taking the job that for a specific amount of good and valuable consideration, that the appraiser sold the appraisal report to the client. Therefore, it becomes the client's information, and therefore the client can do with it anything the client wants to, short of plagiarizing it.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Because I think some listeners would say, well, that's what we're talking about. When they take it from my appraisal report, they're plagiarizing it, right?
Yeah, there was a lawsuit out there, and I won't use any names, mostly because I don't remember them. But an appraiser had done some just superior work analyzing a proposed project. And about 3 or 4 months later, the appraiser got a copy of the offering circular from the listing broker. And he's going through it and he's saying, basically, this is my appraisal. They didn't take 2 or 3 sentences out of it. They took literally pages out of my appraisal and put it in their offering circular. So he sued, and yes, it went to court. And of course, the other side said, well, there is the fair use doctrine, which means that we can use the data in the report. And of course, the plaintiff's argument, the appraiser's argument, was this isn't fair use. Fair use, you have to quote your source. There's no quotation of your sources in here. It's my appraisal. And the court agreed with the appraiser and hit the plagiarizing broker with some very serious fines. So copywriting, and we weren't talking specifically about copywriting, but that's one of the reasons the appraiser prevailed.
Right.
Copywriting the report is perfectly fine. The appraiser has every right to do that. But copyright merely protects the report from plagiarism. It doesn't turn public record data into your own personal data. That does not convert data into your property. All it does is protect your appraisal from plagiarism.
Well, it seems to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just want to clarify, because it seems to me as I hear you talk, Tim, that you, in your mind at least, are separating data from analysis. In other words, there's data that's available and that we put in our report. Okay. An example would be the deed. An example would be the legal description. An example would be the owner. An example would be the sketch. An example would be comparable data. In other words, sale 1, sale 2, sale 3. That's data. But then there's the analysis of this one's superior to this one. Adjustments might be more analysis. Is there a separation in your mind between the two?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And Dustin, and I know you have your USPAP desk sitting right there on your desk.
Yeah. Well, I don't need it. I mean, I got it memorized.
You've got them all memorized. If you go to Standard Rule 1-4, it basically says the appraiser will collect, their step 1, verify, their step 2, and analyze all information necessary for credible assignment results. So as a result, collecting data, just going to MLS and saying, oh, here are 5 sales. The broker provided those. And when MLS put them in the MLS, the broker agreed to the fact that other brokers and appraisers, assuming they're members of the MLS, not only have access to those data, but can use those data without having to cite the source, which was the MLS and the specific broker. The appraiser buys the right to use those data.
Huh, okay.
The public record doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is get on the website or go down to the courthouse. And you could have looked up the same 5 sales. However, it would have taken significantly longer. You use the MLS as a shortcut. But those data don't belong to the appraiser. The MLS data belongs to MLS. And the public record belongs to the good people of whatever county it is.
Right. Which includes the appraiser usually.
Which includes the appraiser, yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So the opinions and the conclusions in my appraisal, which of course I'm summarizing in the report, are confidential. Aren't they confidential to the client?
Right. They are confidential to the client. For example, this is one reason that USPAP does not estimate value. USPAP says, appraiser, you're not going to estimate anything, although the word estimate is used in the cost approach. But when it comes to the value conclusion, the USPAP says, appraiser, you will form an opinion based on the data you used. And if you followed standard 1, it's credible. If you didn't follow standard 1, it's not credible.
Okay, so I guess my question then is what right or authority does our client or the AMC, for example, or the portal itself have to harvest that data then?
Okay, again, Dustin, we talked about this earlier. Once that report leaves your hands, once you press the send button, the client or the client's agent can do anything with it it wants to.
There's not going to be many appraisers that are going to like that answer, Tim.
There are a lot of appraisers out there not going to like that answer.
Yeah.
But I'm married. I'm used to having people pissed off at me.
I love it. We're talking with Tim Andersen. He is an MAI, a USPAP instructor out of Florida, and a very smart guy. We're talking about confidential information, talking about data. What do we own? What do we not own? What control do we have over that data being harvested? I want to pause here. And Tim, when we get back, I want to talk some specifics about appraisers and the data that they gather that may not be available from any other source. I want to pause here and, of course, remind you about Data Master. Speaking of data and the ability to be able to save money, save time, which really are the same thing when it comes to self-employed individuals like ourselves. Data Master will help you to save 30 to 60 minutes per report. Folks, that translates into more money in your pocket. That's why I say Data Master and the fees that you will pay to Data Master are not a cost, folks. They are an investment. They are an investment in your time. They are an investment in quality. You will not have to worry about fat fingering or transposing something from screen 1 to screen 2 with Data Master. Anything that is in that system that you are downloading into your report, you'll be able to do so seamlessly. Go to datamasterusa.com to learn more. One more time, it's datamasterusa.com. We are sponsored by Alamode Software. Alamode, of course, is the software that I use. Why? I'm often asked, Dustin, why don't you use some of the other software out there? Well, guess what? I've used some of the other software out there, and it's good software. I have nothing bad to say about any of the software out there. If you are all about form filling and being able to translate your analysis and your data into the report, there's a lot of companies out there that can help you do that. There's a reason I stick with Alamode, though. The reason is it gives me more for my money. It allows me to be able to have tools that are not available in other sources. For example, their mobile is the best mobile platform out there. And the ability to be able to gather photos and sketch and data on site, to me, is absolutely priceless. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. That's ALAMODE.com. Or you can call them at 800-ALAMODE. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. Several years ago, I switched over my E&O. I was with a different company, and I'd been with that company for years and years. Not really even thought about it, honestly. But I had OREP approach me about possible sponsorship. And I said, why not? I started looking at them. I was very impressed. And I'll tell you, the process of switching was seamless. It was just as easy as renewing what I already had. They saved me money. And the benefits, go to their website, folks. Go to orep.org and check out the benefits and compare it to what you're getting currently. I promise you'll get more and you'll pay less with OREP Insurance. It's orep.org. One more time, it's orep.org. Welcome back to the program, folks. Tim, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it.
Tim Andersen is on the line. He is our resident USPAP instructor, and very graciously gives of his time to help appraisers to learn more about what does USPAP say about this and what does USPAP say about that. But Tim, that's not all you do. You also are helping appraisers who might get themselves in trouble with the state board, right?
Right. That's what I've been doing quite a bit the last few years, something I really enjoy. When appraisers find themselves in trouble with the state, they shouldn't handle that issue themselves because they're not trained how to do it. And if you're going to find yourself in trouble with the state, then yes, the first thing you need is an attorney, because the attorney knows what to do and how to do it.
Yep.
And then if the attorney is not clear on USPAP, if you're not,
which a lot of them are not, by the way.
then there are a few out there, but most of them cannot be familiar with every rule book of every profession there is out there.
Right.
So if you and your attorney need to consult on USPAP, then get in touch with me, or quite frankly, any USPAP instructor, and we'll help you. Now, obviously, we don't do it we do it out of the goodness of our hearts. The goodness of our hearts gets paid.
Gotcha.
So,
absolutely.
I'll be happy to consult with anybody on issues such as these. I'll be happy to help you answer the questions. I'll be happy to consult with your attorney. And a lot of times we are able to get the penalties either reduced to nothing or significantly reduced, although not all the time, because not everybody can bat 1,000.
Well, it's a huge investment in you and yourself and your profession. If you do find yourself on that opposite table from the state, money well spent to employ Mr. Tim Andersen to help you through that process. Tim, your email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. Do you want to give out your phone number?
Sure. My phone number is area code 561-635-5265, and I'll be happy to take your phone call.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. So we're talking about confidential data today. We're talking about confidential issues when it comes to USPAP. And we've learned so far that once we hit that send button, it's no longer in our hands. And what the client chooses to do with that information is somewhat up to them, though you did give an example of a situation where an appraiser sued because of plagiarism. And I think you said he won, right?
Yes, the appraiser won.
Okay. But I want to talk a little bit about this, because one of the things that you and I separated earlier before the break is the difference between data that's available from various sources, right, and analysis. Okay, and I think that's where appraisers sometimes, and rightfully so, get their hackles up a little bit. That it's one thing to steal, quote unquote, my data when it comes to the county square footage or the owner name or the legal description, where that stuff is available somewhere else. Maybe there's a question regarding MLS, because we do have confidential contracts with our local board of realtors that we're not going to, quote unquote, share that information. But as you pointed out, once that information is bought by an appraiser, it is assumed by the board of realtors they're going to put that in their appraisal reports, and we're going to send that off to the client, right? It's kind of out of our hand at that point. But what about stuff that's not readily available? For example, let me give you an example. The county says that the square footage on this home is 2,000 square feet. Well, I go out and personally measure that home, and it is not 2,000. It is 2,025. I'm positive. I measured it twice. I know it's 2,025. That data is not available anywhere else except in my appraisal report.
Okay. First of all, who says the county's wrong?
I do. I measured it twice, Tim.
The county measured it for its purposes, which is ad valorem taxation. It did not measure the county for your benefit. So as a result, to say the county is wrong is, well, the county could be wrong. They made mistakes. I'm not going to debate that for a second.
Okay.
But to say that the county is wrong is begging the question that it is being held to the same measurement standards that you are. And in most cases, not all states have a measurement standard. But the point is, the property is measured for ad valorem tax purposes, not real estate appraisal purposes. Now, one of the things USPAP says is if it is if it's observable, it's not confidential. The house is observable. Therefore, the fact that you measured it and came up with a different square footage does not mean that your square footage is confidential.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for just a second, because I've heard this in the social media. Observable is from the public street. At least that's the definition I've heard on social media. Because I would have to go onto private property and measure that house myself to find out that it's 2025, not 2000. So it's not observable.
Dustin, if you had the sophisticated equipment of the CIA, you could measure it from the air.
I love it.
It's observable.
Okay.
It's
all right.
observable.
What about the orange carpet on the inside? That's not observable, is it?
Well, the orange carpet sucks, but that's got nothing to do with value. Right. And in fact, the orange shag carpet sucks, but that's got nothing to do with value.
Okay.
Most people, whether it's orange shag carpet or it isn't, and it really shouldn't be, because orange shag carpet is just unutterably ugly.
Agreed.
The point is, most people, when they buy a house, go in and take out the carpet and put new carpet in.
What about stuff that does affect value, though, that the county doesn't have? It's not on a previous MLS sheet. Really, there's something in that house that you observed because you are an appraiser. You put that in your report, and then you shared it with your client. Is that confidential information?
Okay, let's go back to the definition of confidential. If the client doesn't call it confidential, and if it's not available from any other source, then no, it's not confidential.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that you and I had a conversation, I don't know, a year or so ago. And one of the things that you said on air, and again, I could have, I'm getting old. I don't remember everything, but it seemed like you said something about the reason for the confidentiality rule, that it had more to do with possibly commercial type stuff with regard to leases and lease dates and that kind of thing, business valuation. Am I remembering that right, Tim?
Yeah, that's extremely important, because obviously an owner of an income property would not want his or her lease data, expense data, etc., published. Now, appraisers will take those data from those sources and aggregate them. In other words, they'll mix them all together, and instead of saying the shopping mall at the intersection of I-15 and I-10 has 107 tenants, and here is a list of their rents per square foot.
Okay.
The appraiser would say at a regional quality mall, the inline tenants were paying an average of whatever it is they're paying, and the anchor tenants were paying an average of whatever it is they're paying. Those data have been aggregated, and by making the statement that I just made, nothing confidential has been given up.
Okay. All right. I think this is so important. And I think it plays into the debate that's happening out there in the social media right now. Very, 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 very importantly. So I want to go to comp data for a second again. And not to circle back. We talked about our agreements between us and the Board of Realtors and the assumptions that are made there and the things that happen there. I've heard some appraisers mention that when we take that data, okay, the data is specific, right? That MLS data is there. The sales price is there. The square footage is there. The interior pictures are there. That's all available. But what's not available, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I think it's important. What's not there is the determination that the appraiser made that the effective age is such and such. The condition is a C3.
That's part of analysis.
Okay, so C3 versus C4. I determined it's C3.
Now,
okay.
You're going to put that in your report.
Yep.
Fannie Mae is going to take a look at it, and Fannie Mae is going to say, oh, okay. Or Fannie Mae is going to say, nope. We got 14 other appraisers in the same appraisals, in the same neighborhood. And you said C4, Dustin, everybody else says C3. What makes you so smart?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you got to answer the question. But remember, Fannie Mae is essentially your client. Therefore, you will answer Fannie Mae's questions with the best possible data, information, and analysis that you got.
Okay. All right. That's pretty clear. And I think a lot of this comes from, another thing that you sent me that I want to just read for word, if that's okay, because I think it's important. Those who have not taken.
Are you going to cite me, Dustin?
No. I'm going to cite USPAP. I'm going to cite you. No, it's not official USPAP. It's FAQ again. Okay. So it's not binding. I understand that, but at least it helps clarify some things. FAQ 72, which you sent to me. The question is, are physical characteristics confidential? Physical characteristics, okay? The question is, I am aware that the ASB changed the definition of the assignment results to specify, and I'm still reading from the FAQ, that physical characteristics are not assignment results. Does this mean that physical characteristics are not confidential? And the response, again, from the FAQ is yes, because physical characteristics are not assignment results. They are not confidential unless identified as such by the client, and they are not available from any other source. So this goes back to your comment earlier. There is an and there.
There's an and there. Yeah. So if the client says, okay, I built this house without building permits, and I refuse to let you tell anybody how big the house is. Well, that would make the appraisal itself impossible. Then it's confidential because the client said, don't publish it, and you can't get it anywhere else. Now that raises some serious highest and best use issues, but that's not where we're going to go.
Tim, this has been very, very enlightening. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that you think would be important here with regard to confidentiality?
Yes. Next set of winning state lotto numbers.
We'll talk off the air, man.
Okay. All right. I win, you get 10%. You win, I get 50%.
That sounds great. Tim Andersen out of Florida, MAI, USPAP instructor, and also an advocate for appraisers. He can do that. We don't like the word advocate when it comes to USPAP issues, but in this case, you are advocating for appraisers and completely legal, completely fine. You can get a hold of Tim where, again, Tim, give us your email and your phone number, please.
My email address, Dustin, is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. And my phone number is 561-635-5265.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. There's been a lot of talk out there about confidentiality. What is data? Who owns the data? I think this has been very, very enlightening for each of us. Speaking of enlightening, we have an opportunity every single month to have an enlightening meeting online. It's called the Appraisers Academy, and it's the ability for you to be able to talk with me and other appraisers live and in person, online, once a month. We have an opportunity to share information to help you to become a more successful appraiser. Please join me. Go to theappraisercoach.com and check on memberships. We would love to have you. Thanks for joining me today, Tim, and we will catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Just start talking.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Beautiful day here in Idaho Falls. Partly cloudy and about 65 degrees.
Okay, now, how we doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, that's a brand new Blue Yeti microphone.
Really? Nice. Love it. Yeah, it sounds really good. Good quality.
Okay, good. And I'm in my wife's closet, and I've got all the clothes surrounding me here, and hopefully the dog's not going to bark.
Oh, good.
It's not going to ring.
That's great. Perfect. Good.
One thought.
Good stuff. All right, I think we're ready, my friend. How about you?
Anytime, Mr.
Okay.
Dustin.
All right. Let me, I guess I haven't shut my door yet. Let me go shut my door. Hold on.
Okay. Okay, I'll quit growling in your ear.
All right. All right, let's do this. Let's plan on about a half hour, maybe 40 minutes, depending on how in-depth we get.
We're good to go.
Okay. Let me pull you back up so I can mute you. Here we go. And